Hello and welcome to a video on the Planet Zach YouTube channel. The great unknown, the mysterious things that we just can't pinpoint, things that played an important part of our childhoods, whether they are TV shows, toys, video games, what have you. But when we sit and really think about it when we get older, we have no idea where it came from or where it went. As I conjure up older memories, a few of these things spring to mind, but the one I want to talk about today is the N64 console I used to play at my aunt and uncle's house. I remember it being there for about as far back as I can remember, and I have no idea where it came from or who it belonged to originally. We had several games that we played on it, some of which are the only games I've played from particular franchises. One of them was Ocarina of Time, which I since have nostalgically played on the 3DS in its remake. Another was Diddy Kong Racing, which is the only Diddy Kong or Donkey Kong related game I've ever played. Then there was Pokemon Stadium, which to this day is the only Pokemon-related game I've ever played other than Pokemon Go. And then an Army Man game, which research has led me to believe was Army Men Sarge's Heroes 2. Probably one of the only major titles on that list is Ocarina of Time. But I was still fairly new to video games when I played it, and I didn't understand the concept of a save file. All three save files were taken up, and I would just randomly click to each one. One of them was posted near the Temple of Time, and I thought the sword was really cool because you could pull it up and everything gets really creepy outside. And then there was a file that was in the Water Temple. It was so much darker in the original game, and I could barely see what I was doing. And since I didn't know how the game played, actually, I just kind of messed around in it. And then the third file, I can't really recall where it was in the game, but I'm pretty sure it was near the Goron village, because I remember the thing in the middle of the village, the vase that's spinning. I remember that, and the music. And I think I also remember the music from the forest area where you get lost a bunch. It is the only game from this group that I've ever returned to in any capacity, and it was well worth it. I really liked the 3DS remake of the game, and actually getting to play it properly was a lot of fun. I mentioned in my history with Sonic the Hedgehog video that I believe Sonic Adventure 2 was the first video game I've ever played, but at the time I forgot about this entire chapter of my video game experience, and to be honest, it was so long ago that I'm not sure which came first. But they were both my first video game experiences that I can remember, regardless of which came first. Despite only really including the battle part of the Pokemon games, Pokemon Stadium was a lot of fun for me. I really liked Ditto because he could turn into any character, and to this day he's still one of my favorite Pokemon. I like Pokemon designs, but I've never played a proper Pokemon game. It's just never appealed to me as much as it has to some people, and I didn't grow up with it, so even when a newer title comes out, I'm not like breaking down the doors to get my hands on a copy. Then we have Diddy Kong Racing, which was a pretty fun game. There were 3 vehicles that you could choose from, but the way you got to be them was through this genie guy in the hub world, which I thought was odd. I didn't like the hovercraft very much because I wasn't really very good at controlling it. The car drove fine, which is something that I find important for any kart racer, and the plane was fun. But I don't think I ever completed the game, even though I was one of the only people that played it. There was also then the Army Man game, which I played considerably less than everybody else. And I never played the campaign mode, I don't think. But it was still a very interesting experience. You had these little army men, and they were inside of like a refrigerator or some other environment because they're supposed to be toy soldiers, I guess. They were green and everything. And it was interesting to play or watch some of the time, but it was definitely my least favorite of the bunch. Notably absent from this list are heavy hitter historical pieces such as Super Mario 64 or the original Smash Brothers. The strangely small library of games that we had to choose from is just as much of a head scratcher as the console's origins. I don't know why there were only 4, there might have been more that I don't remember, but it was only like 4 or 5 games total. I don't know who the console belonged to originally, though none of them were related to me by blood. My uncle had 5 other nieces and nephews, in addition to the 3 children in my own family. So I guess it's theoretically possible that it belonged to one of them. But I was among the oldest of those 8 people, and I don't think there was that big of an age gap between us to where somebody would have had an entire lifespan of a console ahead of them and then given it to my aunt and uncle. Even with the next console in the lineup coming out around this time. I also don't believe it was something that they brought with them when they would come to visit, because it was there on occasions when they were not. Or if my aunt actually bought it for herself. She did that with the Wii when it came out, so I guess that's possible. I just know it was a constant in their household, always hooked up in the bonus room above the garage. We would go up and play it from time to time when we got tired of swimming in their pool. It was a really big part of my childhood. But honestly, I have no idea where this console came from. Even more mysteriously, I have no idea where it went. Years later, when I decided I might like to have it, I asked if it was still around, but it wasn't. It had all but vanished. My best guess is that one of the other nieces or nephews got a hold of it first. We were 10 strong by that point, so that would hardly be surprising. I guess alternatively it may have just been thrown away or given to a thrift store. Strangely enough, another strange from the ether console had appeared in its place. An Xbox 360. I do know the fate of that one though. They gave it to me since the N64 was gone, and when I found out there was no power cable, I promptly threw it away. It's one of my biggest regrets. I don't know why I didn't just realize that I could buy another power cable, or that I could keep that 360 until mine died, and then use the power cable from it for the one that didn't have one. Either way, my own Xbox 360, which originally belonged to my brother, is still around and kicking, and I hope it stays that way for as long as I need it to. Anymore, there's only really one game that I keep it for, and that's Sonic 06, which is the only game that you can't play on the Xbox One from the Sonic lineup. I can play Generations and Unleashed on my Xbox One all I want, and I have quite a lot of other Sonic games on there. I'm not going to upgrade to a new one until Sonic games stop coming out on it, and that's final. Anyway, if you have a similar story from your childhood, where you had something that played a big role in your childhood, and you're just not sure where it came from or where it went, feel free to share. But other than that, that seems like a good place to wrap up the video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.